Hi everyone. Today we are going to begin our reading lesson on May 1st. Today is Friday. And today we're going to kind of review a little bit of what we've talked about throughout the year. Some of you may not remember this because we did it pretty early on, but we're going to review text structure. Now, text structure is how the structure of a informational text especially is organized. Authors have different ways that they use to receive and give you information. And so different text structures create different understandings of information. And so today we're going to focus on two of those. So let's talk about those learning objectives that we're going to talk about today. So the first one is I can identify words and phrases that create a cause and effect or sequential text connection. Now, these words here, cause and effect and sequential, those are the two types of text structure that we're going to learn. So maybe some of you remember when we did cause and effect earlier in the year. Remember, the cause is the why and the effect is what's happening. We know that informational text uses cause and effect to help prove a point. We also know sequential means it looks like that word sequence, right? And sequence is when you put something in order. So we're going to be able to also see sequential text connection, but also we're going to be able to see that sequential text structure. Our other learning objective is I can answer questions about a text, citing text evidence for support. We've been working on that for a while. We're also going to be able to write sentences to demonstrate understanding of cause and effect and sequential connection. So not only are we going to be able to identify this is cause and effect and this is sequential, we're going to be able to prove those 2 points and write it out. So that's what we're going to learn today, guys. So text structures. So why is it important? Well, as a reader, it's important to understand how the information and how the text is organized because how we read something may be different. We also know that if we understand how the text is organized, we can make connections between the parts of a text and the author's idea. So basically what that means is having that text organized in a certain way is going to help us make that connection and learn what the author's view is and also learn what that information is. So many texts, this is an interesting fact, many texts use a lot of text structures. There's actually 5, but today we're going to focus just on 2, that cause and effect and sequential text connections. So that text structure really helps organize the information in a way that's easier for the reader to understand and understand where that author's coming from. So that's really why we're talking about text structure. And structure just means how it's built. So think about if you have like, oh, that's a tall structure out in the city. Okay, structure is just how it's built. So we're talking about how a text is built and organized. So let's talk about that first text structure, cause and effect. So cause and effect, that type of text structure really shows relationships between a cause, so an event, and an effect, what happened because of the event. I like to think of the cause as like why, cause why, right? You might say that to your parents sometimes. And your effect is what is happening. So here's a great example. If it's raining, right, that's the event. The cause is rain. What happens? So the cause is why it's raining. The effects is what's going to happen because of this rain. So you might have a rainbow, there might be a flood, it might just, water your flowers. So those are effects of the rain. So as a reader, we can identify text structure as cause and effects because the author really uses these types of words. Consequently, therefore, as a result, this is the reason why, because of, right? Look at that word. Cause is actually in because of, and maybe due to. And another great way we can understand that is asking that why question. Why is this happening? What is happening, right? Those are why and what questions are actually going to help you identify cause and effect pretty easy. So just to review cause and effect, and really identifying that cause and effect and understanding deeply what those two words mean, I put down this Brain Pop Junior. So all you have to do is open up your slides. Hopefully they're up already. You just have to click this blue link, and it should take you automatically to Brain Pop. So you can't click it on the video, but you can click it in the slides. So make sure you go back to your slideshow and click on this. You're going to need that username and password again. So remember that the cause is always the why it happened, and the effect is what happened. So right now I want you to hit pause. I want you to open up this Brain Pop video, and I want for you to watch it. Okay? When you finish with that, come back to this video and we'll go through the rest of the lesson. All right, hit pause. All right, guys, so now that you've watched that Brain Pop video on cause and effect, it's time to practice showing you that cause and effects text structure that we were mentioning before. So to practice, we're actually going to read that passage that we read on Wednesday, from phone calls to video chat. Now that's on pages 6 through 8 in our Text for Close Reading book. So you can find this book on Benchmark Universe. So if you want it read to you, if you want to see it zoomed up, go click on Benchmark Universe. Now, I didn't put the link in here because by now, hopefully, you understand how to get to Benchmark Universe. But if you still need it, you can still find it on my blog or just message me. If you can't sign in to Benchmark Universe, you will also see that Miss Roby has on here a screenshot of that article. Okay, so we're going to actually take a look closely at the section called An Idea Takes Hold. So we're going to be starting here on page 7. So I'm going to read to you this first paragraph. So hopefully you are here with me. And if you are pausing to get your passage up, go ahead and hit pause, okay? So hit pause. All right, so hopefully you have that out, and if you don't, you can just follow along here on Miss Roby's page. So let's read this next passage up really closely, and I'm going to get out my tools here so that way we're ready to write if we see anything interesting. Now remember, we're trying to look for the cause, which is why something is happening, and the effect, what is happening. So let's read this first paragraph. An idea takes hold. A telephone was a strange new concept. People did not even know what to say when answering a call. So right away, I'm thinking, what? Right? Why don't people know? Okay. Bell thought ahoy, a call used by sailors, worked well. Another inventor, Thomas Alva Edison, was working on related inventions, including a way to connect callers. He wondered if the word hello would catch on as the best telephone greeting. He put the greeting in his operating manuals for the telephone. By 1880, people were saying hello to start all phone conversations. So this whole first paragraph is really pointing out that people are starting to use hello to answer phone calls and start phone conversations. But one question that I had, and if I'm identifying a cause and effect, remember we talked about asking that why questions. So why did people start saying hello? Okay, so why did people start saying hello? So right here it says by 1880, people were saying hello to start all phone conversations. Okay, so this is our effect. This is our what. So what's happening is that people are starting to say hello. And so you have to excuse Miss Roby's writing here. It's not exactly the best electronically. So that is our what in the conversation. Now, can you identify why people started saying hello on phone conversations? Do you know why? Can you find it in the text? All right, so hopefully you can identify that why. This paragraph here actually tells us the why we started saying hello. Now I can look here back in my text and I can see we're going to see if Miss Ruby can get this organized here. Okay, I can actually see here that it says Thomas Alva Edison was working on related inventions, including a way to connect callers. He wondered if the word hello would catch on as the best telephone greeting. He put the greeting in his operating manuals for the telephone. So this is our why. Okay, so why did that become a thing? It was because Thomas Alva Edison wanted people to use it, so he put it into his learning manuals. That is our cause and our effect. Now let's take a look at this next paragraph. Let's see if we can identify another cause and effect here within our text structure. Once people saw that a telephone could be useful, the demand went up sharply. So why did the demand go up sharply? Do we have an understanding? Yeah, so this is our effect right here. This is what's happening. We know the demand went up sharply. That means that people, Miss Ruby's handwriting looks bad again. People wanted more phones. Okay, so that was our what? People wanted more phones. Why do people want more phones? Does it say in this sentence? Yeah, let's see. It says, once people saw a telephone could be useful. So that means that millions of people wanted a telephone because they saw that it was useful. It had a purpose. They were doing something great. So right away in paragraphs 1 and 2, we see a cause and effect. We're asking those why questions. Why did that hello become a greeting? Why did the demand go up sharply? Meaning, why did more people want phones? Okay, we're asking those questions. And if our text gives us that why, okay, that is showing us that it's a cause and effect. All right, so I'm going to kind of skip through some of these slides here, but let's just recap. So remember, we asked that why question, why do people start saying hello to phone conversations? Well, we found out that Edison put the greeting into his operating manual. So we have a cause. Edison put the greeting into his manuals. And the effect is people started saying hello. So when we talked about that, demand went up sharply. Why did we're asking that why question again? Why did the demand for telephones increase? Well, we have a cause and effect, right? We see that people saw that the telephones could be useful. That's our why. And the effect was millions of people wanted telephones. So those are basics of our cause and effect. Now remember that we were talking about two different text structures. So we were talking about cause and effect, but we're also going to be talking about sequential text structure. And if you actually look at right here, this word sequence, right? Sequential. Okay, that's a clue here that sequence plays a big part in sequential text structure. It's all about the order of things. All right, so let's see if we can dive deep. So sequential describes events in order or explains the steps one must follow to do something or make something. So I gave a great example here on this slide here. We have peanut butter jelly sandwiches, right? So first you got to get the peanut butter jelly. You got to cut the bread. You got to put the peanut butter on the bread with the jelly. You smash those breads together, make a sandwich, and then you make a happy, delicious sandwich. So sequential text structure is probably the most easiest to identify. And that's because they use transition words or signal words here. Words like first, second, next, last, another, then, finally, after that, before. So they're words that help show you the order of things. Okay, now sometimes it's how to do something, sometimes it's how to make something, sometimes it's just when in history did this occur. So we're going to definitely look at sequential by looking at the history part. So if you need a little refresher on sequencing skills, maybe you're not great at putting events in order in your story, please hit pause, pull up your Google slideshow, and with this link, you should be able to watch a brain pop on sequence. Okay, and so that'll give you a little bit of a review if you need it. And you can use this username and password to help guide your reading instruction, okay? So make sure to use that to get into brain pop these two. You can click the link in your Google slide, not in the video, but in the Google slide for sure. So go ahead and watch that and then hit pause or hit resume on my video. So hit pause on me, go click that link in your Google slide. Oops. All right, guys, so we're going to look closely at paragraphs 3 through 5 of the article From Phone Calls to Video Chat to see if we can identify any sequential text structure. Meaning, we're going to look to see, can we see order anywhere in these paragraphs? Do they put any steps down? So let's go back and let's open up that article again. Okay, so we're going to look at paragraphs 3 through 5. So we started reading 3. Okay. Once people saw that telephone could be useful, demand went up sharply. By 1900, Bell's company had almost 600,000 phones in use, and that number increased to 6 million by 1910. So dates are really great when we're talking about sequential order because they're giving us an actual timeline. So if I look here, we know it says by 1900, Bell's company had almost 600,000 phones. So right here, this is giving us our first really clue that in 1900, we had lots of phones. But look here, and I'm going to use a different color so we can see that. The number increased to 6 million by 1910. Wow. So we have step 1, only 600,000 phones were in use. And then look, step 2 here, 6 million were being used. All right, let's see if we have another sequential step. Okay, when telephones were first installed in homes, people could only make calls indirectly with an operator's help. An operator had to connect one caller to another. By 1920, people could dial numbers directly. So look, there's another change. They're showing you two different changes here. They're saying that people would have to make calls with an operator. Remember we talked about that on Wednesday. The operators were like these women down here below that would actually you would pick up the phone, you would tell them who you want to call, and they would connect you. So this is telling you another sequence, okay? And it shows you that sequence of more and more people using telephones and how it's advancing. So you go from starting at 1900 that year where 600,000 phones were in use and then 6 million to 1910, and by 1920 people now could call who they wanted on their own. So it's showing you those steps of how phone conversations have definitely worked, and that helps us as a reader understand the timeline of what happens, and it's organizing our information and our thoughts. All right, so let's see if we can identify and practice these skills on our own. All right, guys, so we're going to practice a little bit together, and you can kind of check your answers as we go. All right, so here's our guided practice. So I want you to read paragraphs 6 through 8 on page 8. So you can find paragraph 6 or 8 on page 8. It's the last page in this article. I want you to see, can you identify at least one cause and effect connection and one sequential text connection in these paragraphs? So if you don't remember, go back, look at those slides. Okay, see if you can identify the cause and effect and a sequential. Remember, cause and effect is the why question. So you're understanding the why and the what's happening. Think about that rain cloud and the rainbow, right? So the cause is the rain, the effect is you get a rainbow. Sequential text is how you're sequencing your story. Can you see if there's a sequence or they're giving you details in order? Okay, so I want you to see, can you identify a cause and effect and a sequence? So I want for you to make sure you annotate words, phrases, and sentences that show the connection. So make sure, we can't really annotate in the Google slide, but I want for you to write out what words or phrases help you figure that out. So right now I want you to hit pause, and I want for you to try this on your own. Now, when you're ready and you've typed your thoughts here, make sure you do this slide in the Google slideshow. Okay, I'm checking to see, did you do this? And after that, you can hit pause or hit pause to fill it out. When you're done, you're going to hit play and I'll give you the answers. So go ahead and write out your thoughts here. And then when you're done, I want you to hit play back on this video so you can check your answers, okay? So hopefully you have filled out your answer, and if you haven't, please go back and do that. I don't want to see you copying word for word Mr. Roby's answer, because that means you're not practicing. So we're trying this on the honesty policy. I want you to go and try that question on your own. So hopefully you've done that, and we're going to walk you through my answer. All right, so let's look closely at those paragraphs. All right, guys, so there's actually quite a few cause and effects within these three paragraphs, but I'm going to highlight the one that I was able to see. All right, so let's take a look. I'm going to jump down to paragraph 7. It says here, another important development came along in 1973, the world's first cell phone. The first cell phones were big and cost a lot of money. Few people had them. Cell phones did not get small enough to fit into people's pockets until around 2000. They became affordable too. Once that happened, more and more people bought them. Right here, this sentence, they became affordable too. Once that happened, more and more people bought them. So this is telling me what is happening. So more and more people are buying those cell phones. So I had the question of, why were more and more people buying them? Well, if we looked and we took a look and it said cell phones did not get small enough to fit into people's pockets until around 2000. So meaning that when they got smaller and they became affordable, meaning that they were cheap, they were cheaper, more people bought them. So the smaller size and cheap is why people started buying them. So this is telling me this whole connection here is showing us that cause and effect. So I put that down here. I said one cause and effect connection that was in the text was the phrase, cell phones did not get small enough to fit into people's pockets until around 2000. They became affordable too. Once that happened, more and more people bought them. So this is showing that one cause and effect. Now, we're not done yet. We still have to figure out the sequential text connection. So let's go back and look at that text to find out those sequential text connections. So as I was reading this page especially, there's a couple things that you could definitely highlight about sequence. So if you take a look at, especially down here, okay, this is a timeline. A timeline is a tool used to really show that sequence. Now, the reason why that is because you have dates. So take a look here. You have early 1900s. This is telling you that this is what that phone looked like. It was an early rotary phone with a crank. Then in 1963, we moved to push button phones. Okay, and then in 1973, this is our first cell phone. So here is one clue of a sequence. This is our timeline. And once again, Miss Roby's really sorry how messy her writing is. Okay, this is showing that order of when something is occurring. Now, in our writing itself, we also have a couple key things that help us know that. We can see here, I'm just going to scan through pretty quick. We see in 1963, push button keypads replaced the round rotary dial phones. Okay, so we're getting a date. That was first. Okay, another development came along in 1973. So another, right? That was a sequence word, another. Okay, the first cell phones were big and cost a lot of money. Cell phones didn't get small enough till around 2000 using those dates. Okay, according to Digital Trends, a technology information website, since 2014, there are more cell phones than people on Earth. Wow. Phones are now miniature computers. The so-called smartphones can send photos and written messages. They can surf the internet from just about anywhere. In 2003, right, another key date, a computer software program called Skype was introduced. Allowing people to make video calls just like Bell predicted. So using dates, using signal words like first and now, these type of paragraphs show an order, right? With those dates, it's telling us what came first, what came next, what came then. So back to our question. So I put my cause and effect connection here. Here's my sequential example. Was the text uses dates and signal words such as first and now to show that connection between the different steps that led to today's phone technology. So using those dates, it helped us see the history of phones and phone technology. So guys, there you have it. We talked about cause and effect, that why and what text structure. And we've also talked about sequential text structure. So using transition words and dates to really help guide the steps and information to help us understand that on a little deeper of a level. So today for independent practice, I'm going to give you two passages. They're pretty short, so hopefully they won't take you too long. Now you can print these off. If you would rather do them on a worksheet, just make sure to take a picture and upload it. If you want, I did include them electronically, so you could also write in this Google slideshow. So you're going to read one paragraph here about cause and effect, and I want to see, can you identify the cause and effect within this passage? Okay, so making sure that you can identify the cause and the effect. Now, this next one is entitled Spacesuits, and it's all about spacesuits and the history of making them. So this one, you're going to look for sequential text structure. So I'm going to ask you these questions, and you're going to write them out. So what happened first? What happened second? And what was the third detail? All right, so you have two very short passages, and I want you to complete those questions to practice identifying cause and effect, but also sequential text. All right, guys, this one's a little bit lengthy, so if you need to take a break, make sure to hit pause. And if you need help, I'm always here for you. All right, guys, have a great day.